Yo, so guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction, or another reaction to Wired. It's been a few weeks, but this one is Astronaut, probably saying his name wrong, Chris Hadfield, Debunks Space Myths, again by Wired. And I know this guy from a lot of videos. He was going viral a few years ago for like showing clips from space. I remember one of like how you sleep in space, and he like sort of sleeps in a sleeping bag attached to the wall. And there's another one of how he like brushes his teeth and like washes his hair, I think. All this kind of stuff. So I know him from that. He does look very familiar. So I'm assuming that is him. If I'm wrong, I apologise. But yeah, I mean, I had a few suggestions for this, and I clicked it and I sort of realised I knew who he was. And also, yeah, the title seems quite interesting because I have a lot of sort of thoughts myself on how certain things on space works. And I guess he's going to answer the questions that even I have. Again, I don't know what questions I can think when it comes to it. But maybe when it gets mentioned, I'll sort of think, actually, I did think it works like that kind of thing. I don't know, but I think it's going to be a good fun reaction. And yeah, hopefully you enjoy. Quick shout out to my Instagram and my Patreon. Instagram and my Twitter, links in the description. Same for my Patreon, links are all there. But yeah, man, let's give this a watch.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hi, I'm Commander Chris Hadfield, astronaut, spaceship commander, spacewalker, part-time musician.
It is him. He's a musician as well, goddamn.
I'm here today to hopefully debunk some common space myths. Here's this common perception that you will immediately fry to a crisp by the unfiltered, unadulterated solar radiation if you get sucked out of the air.
See, I just thought you get exploded. Not explode. You get exploded. Your body just explodes, or just like sort of, just pops. I don't know. That's what I saw.
In truth, it's way worse than that. In the shade in space, it's like minus 250 degrees. But the part of you that's in the sun, it's plus 250 degrees at least. So it's going to start boiling and burning. So it's like lying on a red hot stove with a piece of dry ice on your back. And your lungs are going to be sucked flat instantaneously. But even worse than that is your blood is going to boil, like opening a can of pop where suddenly all the little bubbles come out because there's no air pressure around you. So simultaneously, you are going to freeze, boil, burn, get the bends, and no longer be able to breathe.
Oh, mate. Please remind me not to get sucked into space. Has that ever happened to someone? I've got to look at this. I don't know. I'm a sicko, man. I need to see. Has anyone ever... Oh, good typing there, lad. Ever been sucked into space? Has anyone ever been lost in space? However, of the roughly 550 people who have so far ventured in space, only 3 have actually died there. Who has? It should have been who has, but decompression in space. Oh, so it's these 3. Oh, mad. Oh, below the common line. Oh, so there's other ones, but they weren't quite in space. I assume that is what it means. There's a lot of fatalities, though. God damn.
Not a good way to go. I've done 2 spacewalks, and I was very thankful to have a spacesuit around my body so that none of those things happen to me. Sometimes you hear that you have to work out constantly or you will pass out and possibly die.
What I know is that apparently, don't you like get really weak when you come back to Earth because like the gravity?
Space. Not true. Living on a spaceship is the most lazy existence you can imagine. You're weightless. You do not have to lift a finger. You don't have to hold your head up. Your heart doesn't have to lift your blood against gravity. You can be the laziest person in the universe in space. But eventually you need to come back to Earth. And if you don't exercise for your whole 6 months in space, you'll sort of turn into a jellyfish. So we do exercise 2 hours a day on a spaceship. We have a resistive machine, we have a unicycle, and we have a treadmill where elastics hold us down just to keep our bodies strong enough and our bones dense enough so when we get home, actually, we don't just fall over like a puddle. But you don't need to work out all the time.
Running in space must be so weird.
You've probably heard that space has a smell, maybe like burnt steak or some type of barbecue. That's true. When you come in from a spacewalk, you're surrounded by the emptiness of space. It's sort of like the opposite of air. There's nothing there at all. When you quickly repressurize the hatch and you open up the hatch and you smell, what is that lingering smell from a place that used to be exposed to space? The smell in there is a little bit like that trace of a smell of gunpowder or burnt steak, or to me it's sort of like brimstone, like a witch has just been there. It's a cool, lingering trace of a smell. I think what it really is the emptiness of space, the vacuum of space, is actually pulling trace chemicals out of the metal of the walls of the ship. Little bits of stuff you never smell because normally there's air pressure holding them into the metal. They're slowly off-gassing those tiny little trace gases and trace particles that otherwise they never get into your nose. And those are released. It's sort of that metallic gunpowder-fired smell. That's where the smell is coming from. Maybe it's not even coming from space. It's just sort of coming from space's effect on our ship. Yeah, in truth, it smells a little bit like a burnt steak. So there's a lot of word out there that if you go incredibly fast, like the speed of light, if you could travel... So there's a lot...
This is one I want to know, though. This is one that I really want to know. Because I remember Interstellar, in that film, that sort of blew my mind how he was they were aging quicker and all this kind of stuff. You know, if you see Interstellar, you know what I mean. And I've never truly known if that's true. I feel like it actually is true. And we're going to see, but I feel like it is one of those things that actually... It kind of makes sense, but at the same time it doesn't make sense. It's just weird.
A lot of word out there that if you go incredibly fast, like the speed of light, if you could travel at the speed of light, that you won't age. And despite thousands of years going by, you'll stay the same, but everybody that you know will die. That's not really true. Einstein called it relativity because what he meant was your aging will be different relative to people's aging on Earth. You'll still age. Time will still pass for you, but people on Earth will age at a different rate. So that if you came back after going incredibly fast, you would have gotten older by the amount of time that it took for you to travel, but people on Earth would have aged much, much faster. They would have had a longer period of time because if you get going fast enough, your speed is sort of proportional to the time passed.
See, that's just fucking mental. This is what just makes my mind blow about space, man. These kinds of facts. It's just mental to me, bro. It's just nuts.
So you'll still age, but you just age at a different rate than people back on Earth. Einstein did this cool thought experiment. Imagine if you were looking at a clock. The light from the clock is coming and hitting your eyeballs and telling you it's 12 o'clock. Well, imagine if you could move away from that clock at the speed of light. It would only say 12 o'clock because that light and you would be moving away from the clock at the same speed. So for you, it would look like it was always 12 o'clock. Forever. You'd still be getting older, but that clock would always look like it was the same time. The people on Earth were continuing to live. They're not aware of you going the speed of light. So you can see that the time for you, because of your speed, is relatively different than the time for the people on Earth. It's a really unusual thing to try and grasp in your head.
It's so weird. I love it though.
What happens when something blows up in space? If something explodes in space, will it make a sound? And could a human hear it? It's a pretty easy question to answer. The sun is just an explosion. The sun is the biggest explosion any of us can imagine. It's a huge, continuous thermonuclear explosion. It's every atom bomb we've ever built, way more than that, continuously exploding. It would be the loudest thing imaginable. It's constantly happening, but we don't hear a whisper of it. And that's because there's nothing to carry the sound from the sun to us. Even though it's incredibly violent, there's nowhere for the pressure of all of that sound, all of that noise, to be carried across the emptiness of space to shake my eardrum in here and let me hear the sound of the sun. It's a good thing. It'd be deafening. So if something explodes in space, it makes sound, but there's no way for that sound to be carried across space so that I could hear it. There is this idea out there that maybe the only way that we could really create gravity is to spin the spaceship so that everybody is stuck to the sides like one of those rides at the fair where you're pinned against the wall. And for now, that's actually true. We don't know how to control gravity. We have no way to control gravity. We can sort of pretend there's gravity by spinning a ship and everything stick to the sides like a ball on the end of a string. Maybe someday we'll figure out how to control gravity. But for now, we have to spin the whole ship. Only in the middle would they be weightless. I've seen that people think that NASA is working on warp speed so that we can travel at the speed of light to interstellar planets. Warp speed is an invention of science fiction. If we knew how to work on warp speed, we would. We don't know how to go anywhere near the speed of light. It takes an unlimited amount of energy. The faster you go, the
Look at
more
this.
energy it takes. E equals mc squared. It goes up with the square of the speed, in fact. So how can you generate...
What the hell is going on here? Is this like orbiting Earth, but like times speed times like 1,000 or something?
that much electricity, and what does it do to your mass?
my
We don't know. We think maybe it's possible that you could go faster than the speed of light, but we sure don't understand how right now. So we're not really working on it. So it's not really true. We're hoping for it.
That would be cool, honestly.
In so many movies, you see that the only way that they survive interstellar travel from one star to another is to freeze yourself into cryo sleep. We don't know how to do it.
Yeah, will cryosleep ever even be possible? Isn't there that thing where people are about to die, or they're close, they've got like some kind of illness, and they've like went into cryosleep, or they froze themselves, that's what I'm going to say, just froze themselves, and in the hopes of when they come back, when there's like a vaccine or like a cure for their illness, they can like survive. Like, I suppose there's people who've done that kind of thing. Maybe it's not cryosleep because that's not in space, but just in general.
Right now, when you
Wait, didn't Ronald McDonald get frozen? Is that just a myth, or is that actually true?
freeze water, which is...
I've got to see this. I don't know why I'm even saying. Oh, I can't type. Oh my god, I'm having a stinker. Freeze. Is this just something that I've heard and it's not actually true? Where have I heard this from? Wait, where have I heard the Ronald McDonald freeze thing? What is that? That's just a childhood tale that stuck with me to this day.
what
What
we're
the
mostly
fuck?
made of, our blood and everything. It goes into crystals. It turns into ice crystals. And if you allow cryo sleep, we don't know how to do that. Right now, when you freeze water, which is what we're mostly made of, our blood and everything, it goes into crystals. It turns into ice crystals. And if you allow the beautiful, delicate nature of your human body to expand into ice crystals, it'll destroy the structure of you. It'll kill you. You know, frostbite destroys it so that you get gangrene in your hand. You'd end up with entirely destroyed bodies. So right now, we do not know how to successfully freeze a human body so that it is not going to be permanently destroyed. Maybe we'll figure it out someday, but all of those movies that rely on freezing the crew, we don't know how to do that. It's not real.
Possibilities are there, though.
You see on the internet all the
seen
time,
this
someone
clip
has
before.
built a balloon and they've launched some little figurine with a camera attached to it where they take a picture way up high in the atmosphere. You can see the curvature of the Earth. It's pretty cool. But there's some people thinking you could fly yourself all the way up to the stratosphere with some sort of high altitude balloon. You can actually, but it's really complicated. Felix Baumgartner, when he did his
The Red
leap
Bull.
out of a balloon and
The
actually
Red
go
Bull
through
climb.
the speed of sound, falling down towards the Earth and landing with a parachute, he was way up into the stratosphere. The stratosphere starts at about 6 or 7 miles up. It's not all that high, but then it goes on for a long way. There's not enough air to breathe. You kind of need to have an airliner with the pressure inside to keep your body healthy if you're that high. But if you take the right equipment with you, yes, we can use a
Jeez.
balloon to lift us high enough to get all the way up into the stratosphere. So if you have the right equipment, it's true.
Man.
You've probably read somewhere on the internet that if you go to the space station, your body will get taller, sort of expand, and it'll be painful,
I
and you're
never
going to
heard
be
this
taller
before.
forever, an irreversible experience. And it's not really true. As I'm standing here talking right now, gravity is pushing me down towards the floor. Every single bone in my body and the little bit of gristle that's in between the bones, like each of the vertebra of my back, every one has a little disc in between each of the bones, and even my hip bones and my knee bones, there's a little bit of a gap. Well, if there's no gravity pushing me down, then those gaps can all get a tiny bit bigger. If you stay in weightlessness for a few weeks, in fact, your body just sort of stretches because the gap between each of the bones gets a little bigger. And in my case, I got about that.
I mean, I'm 5'9". Again, I'll say I'm 5'10", which means I'm 5'11", which means I'm 6 foot. So I'm 6 foot, 5'9". But maybe I should go to a place there's no gravity. Like that's where they make these sort of non-gravity places. I'll just go there for like maybe a year or so, and then I could be like, what, 6'3", 6'4"? I mean, that's the dream, right? But I'm joking, but that's nuts though. Like the fact that you can actually, like your body, again, it's probably not a big amount, but your body does relatively sort of like enlarge itself. It's kind of wild because of like not having gravity. Gravity is crazy, man. Gravity wants you as small as possible. Like that's kind of like what I'm sort of sensing from this. Gravity is crazy, man.
That much taller. But you aren't really taller. You're just sort of temporarily longer. But it's not permanent.
Yeah.
As soon as you get
Right.
home and gravity starts doing its work on you and grinding you down, everything squishes back down to its launch. So you may be for a little while a little bit taller in space, and it may hurt your back a little because everything's sort of getting pulled tight. Some people have back pain in space as a result, but it's not really growing. It's just sort of stretching to your natural maximum that you're going to get squished back again as soon as you get home. If you do get maybe that much longer after you've been in space for a few weeks, think what your pants would be like. They're gonna be high above your ankle. And if you put on a spacesuit, who custom fit the spacesuit to the size of your body?
Yeah.
But we know it's going to happen, so we actually plan in advance. We fit our spacesuits knowing that the astronauts are going to be a little bit taller when they're in space, or at least their bodies are going to be a little bit stretched. And even the seat that protects us when we come back to Earth, the crash seat, so that when we...
I need to do a video looking at like how when people have been in space for like 6 months in the space station or whatever, what it's like when they land, because they have to be treated some crazy way. I can guarantee that. Like probably have to be held. Like, they can't really they won't be able to stand up, kind of thing. Like, I actually would be interested in seeing something like that if there is any videos out there. So yeah, link me some if there are.
we hit the ground, it protects us properly. We allow for the fact that our backbones are going to be slightly longer when we're up there. But your clothes, you don't really know how they fit because you're floating around weightless. Your shirt is always floating around your body. So you never really have a sense up there how well your clothes fit, just because there's no gravity to pull them down and look and see how well they're fitting on your body. It's more like they're just floating next to you. I've read somewhere that on board the International Space Station, bacteria multiplies 10 times faster in space. So if you get sick, your body's going to be like torn apart by this ravenous strain of mutant salmonella. Nah. It is a different place than Earth, the space station. We run around with little swabs all the time to measure what microbes and what viruses and what little tiny bits of life might be growing on the spaceship. We also go around with little cleaners and wet wipes and wipe down the whole space station all the time, like in a hospital, to try and keep the whole thing clean and hygienic. And we are finding that some of those primitive forms of life do mutate slightly differently in the high radiation, weightless environment of the spaceship. But no one has died yet because of the mutant salmonella. I'm Chris Hadfield. Hopefully this has helped answer some of those common space myths.
This was so cool. This is one of my favourite videos I've seen, man. Again, I know him from his clips, and his clips are so like interesting, and I love seeing them. I feel like I see them in school initially, and then I just sort of ended up watching them on my own. But some of these are so like, when you hear it from like an expert like him, like answering these questions, it just helps me sort of. It makes me a bit more at ease, even though my mind's still blown at every single fact. It makes me feel a bit more at ease. Like, okay, at least someone out there knows a bit more about this kind of stuff. So there's more to learn, kind of thing. Because man, the limits of learning about space are just, again, it's just endless. So I just still want to learn more, but again, there's limits to what we know as a species. So it's just frustrating, but again, it's still cool because I'm still at the very basics. So there's a lot of things for me to learn. He answers these so nicely. Instead of saying, no, that's impossible, those moves are dumb, he shrugs and says, well, we don't know how to do that yet. This man would actually be a good teacher. Yeah, I mean, genuinely. I remember seeing him in school, like his clips in school. So obviously he's not a teacher, but he helps us learn about certain things and makes lessons a lot more enjoyable as well. At 1:17, Chris living in the space station is the laziest experience you can imagine. Me, tell me more. Chris is actually not like that. Me, nice. It's much worse. Oh no. Chris, space does not. There's actually some like pant steak. God, I just left the chat. You're an idiot, sandwich. I could listen to him talk all day about space all day. Same, man. Him, again, like this is the first time I've really listened to him talk about certain things other than the videos we've seen. Him, Brian Cox. What's his name? I saw him here. Neil deGrasse Tyson. I've seen a few clips from him on the Joe Rogan show, and he's really interesting as well. I definitely want to do reactions to him. What's happened here? Has my internet's cut out at the right time? Thank God for that. Your blood is going to boil. Okay, I've changed my mind about being an astronaut. Cartoon characters when they smell something nice. 1, 2, 3.
Do not have to lift a finger. You don't have to hold your head up. Your heart doesn't have to lift your blood against...
Wait. Oh, he's pushing himself. was like, wait, he's not saying anything. Gordon, the space is fucking overcooked. I love the comments so much. Oh mate, I'm so happy that my internet's went out just at the right time. Thank God for that. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Again, if you want more reactions to Wired or Chris Hadfield or more space reactions, let me know, because I really love these kinds of reactions. But yeah, until next time, like, subscribe, peace.